Okay guys, this video is going to walk through what we need to do to be able to complete our complex spreadsheet task 3 grades analysis scenario, starting off with setting up our Excel document. So the first thing that you need to make sure you've done is saved it with an appropriate name and saved it in an appropriate place. Your OneDrive is really helpful because it'll allow you to check the version history and be able to go through and redo or save as you're going, which is really important. So having a look through the requirements, it's got a really detailed explanation of what you need to include for this task. If you need to be able to explore and find out what and how you do some of these. Hopefully this video will help. I'm not going to give you complete step-by-step for the whole thing because I need you to do some problem solving yourself as well. So we're going to go through and start creating our sheets and tables first. So the first sheet is called SH Raw Data. So the whole reason of using those little SH or TBL at the front is to be able to identify really clearly when we go to using them in references. So when we create formulas, it's really important that we actually have a way to be able to distinguish between them. Okay, so for this one, if we have a look, first table is going to be TB raw data, and it needs subject, title, type, average score, my score, and weighting. I'm going to copy those, and I'm going to drop those across there. At the moment, that's not going to work because it's just in one cell, but what I can do is I can retype them, or if I go into data, text to columns allows me to use the delimited, not fixed width, and I want to be able to use comma to be able to break them up. So now each of those is its own separate piece, which is really good. I'm going to create a table now, so I'm going to select that and just a few rows so that I can start there. I can use the shortcut Control T or Command T if you're on a Mac, and I go to Insert or Table. So first thing I need to make sure is I check that I've already got my headers there, so that's really good. I hit OK. So now that's created that. Now the type, it's asked me it needs to be a drop down. So to do that, I need to have that referred to from the second sheet called SH References. So I'm going to grab that. That's going to go into my second sheet. I can double click on that to change the name, or I could right click on it and rename as well. So in this case, I've got that there, and I need to have my type. So this is the assessment type, and that needs to be able to go into what I need. Now, I forgot something back here. I didn't actually name my table. So when I'm selected on a table, you can see I can change the size of the table by moving that little bar there. So I can change the size of the table there. But in this case, what I need to do is select Init, go to table name. So this needs to be TB raw data. Okay. Really important that we give them a more meaningful name than table 1 and table 2. Okay, so this next one is going to be type, and I'm then going to grab through the bits that I need. So I'm going to drop those names in underneath. You'll probably need to copy and paste them across as well. The next step is selecting what I want to be the table. I'm going to use a shortcut Control T. With headers, I need to make sure I've got that checked. Hit OK. That table wants to be now TB type. Okay, so that's now available for me to reference over here. So that type, I'm going to select the whole row here. It's easier than doing it later, but I might do it this way to just show you a different process. So I'm going to go into data up in the top bar here, and I'm going to go into this validation, so data validation. Select that, and I'm going to change that to being any value, so I can actually make sure things are particular numbers or decimals or certain lengths as I go, but in this case I want a list. I select list, and the source I want to be is that table I've got over here. So I'll select those, I hit enter, and I hit OK. So now those drop down boxes give me the options that I had over there. So it's easier than typing each time. So what I'm going to do, and what you need to do then, is actually compile your for subject information. So I have conveniently done this already, and I'm going to paste mine straight in. So I'm going to go top, paste that all in. I'm just going to change that and tidy it up a little bit. Assessment time a little bit longer. So now I've got my 4 subjects and all the information I need for it. So these are just in as standard numbers. I haven't added a percentage or anything like that, and I can work with them either way. And you can see that those drop down boxes I have just lost, so I'm going to just drop those back in really quickly. So source wants to be that group there, enter, enter. And I'm going to then pull that down so it's for all of them. So now you can see I've got that options through there. It's messed up my data. Okay. So I can go through, and that now has all of that there as well. So my data is ready to go on my raw data. My references, I'm missing one, so if I come back over here, I need a grade boundaries as well. So I'm going to come back over here, and I need to add in, so I'm going to have the grade, I need the high, and I need the low. Okay, so I'm going to select A, B, C, D, E, and make that a table. It does have headers, and rename that to be my grade boundaries. Now, you'll need to transfer that information across. I'm going to drop that in as well, and that's ready to go. So now I've got my references for the grade boundaries, I've got my raw data. The next thing I need to be able to do is come down into the third sheet, which is the analysis sheet. So I'm going to create that now and name it as I go. So the third sheet, double click, paste that in, and I've got my sheet. And then what do I need? So this has a little bit more of a breakdown that I need to include. So we need to be able to show for each subject the average score for each assessment type, and on average each assessment type and the overall assessment type average. Okay, the average we're using is the mean, not the median or the mode. Okay, and then we have a bottom row for the average of each of the different sites across each of the subjects. So let's come back over here. If we have a look at what we need to include there, is we're going to have our subject first. We need then our 5 categories. So those categories need to be exactly the same way that we wrote them the other way. We know we're going to have our 4 subjects. I'm just going to make my table there, so Control T or Command T with my headers. I'm going to change those so that they wrap. So go back over to Home, and I can wrap the text, so I can just make those a little bit smaller and be able to fit in there. Okay, so now I've got my table ready to go. I'm going to drop my 4 subjects across. Now, really important that these are exactly the same, so copy and paste them in from your raw data to make sure that they're written exactly the same, because that's going to be our reference, our unique identifier for that column. Okay, so I've got that set up. I need to now start adding my data to this. So if I have a look, I want to be able to find the average of each of the types based on the subject. So I've got 2 criteria that I need to check against in the raw data, and then I've got the thing that I need to average. So I'm going to go equals, which brings us into allowing us to create a formula, and I'm going to use average if S. So that allows me to find the average of a particular set of groups based on the provided conditions or the criteria. So I'm going to open up my bracket there. So the range that I'm looking for, so you can always click on this to find out more information about each of those. But the range that I'm looking for is from the raw data, and I want my score. So I'm going to highlight that whole column, and you can see by going from just the D2 to D19 by selecting the entire data part of the table, it gives us a much more meaningful name there, which is much more useful to work with. Now the first criteria range is the name of the subject. So I'm going to grab that, and again it gives me the more meaningful name. Hit a comma to go to the next one. So the criteria that I'm checking against is this column here. So I want that one there for this row. I'm going to go comma, and now I can add my second range. So if I just left that, it would just check for anything that's English ATAR and give us the average for those. Okay, so I'm going to come back over here. And then I need the type as next. So I'm going to select all of that. And then it goes to type, comma, and I'm comparing that against, in this case, the knowledge and understanding. Okay, so I'm going to finish that off. That's all I need. I don't need other criterion. I hit enter, and I can see it's worked. Now we've got an error up with this visual art general. What I need to do here is I'll go have a look. So where's my visual art general? I don't have any knowledge and understanding in there. So in that case, there's nothing wrong with the error here. It just means that I don't have the data there. But having that divide by 0 error doesn't look very nice. It doesn't allow us to work with that data more effectively. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an extra piece to the front of this formula, which is called if error. So basically what if error allows us to do is it allows us to, if there is an error, it allows us to say specify the export or the output there. In this case, I'm just going to go open speech marks, close speech marks. I could have a 0 or NA or anything like that, but in this case I just want it blank. I close that so that I can close that function there, and you can see now that that has cleared away. Now if I just drag this across, that's not going to work, because if we have a look, it's moved across the reference from that English ATAR to here. Now what I can do is I want to be able to, you can see everything sort of shifted across. So I'm going to remove that. I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to select that. Copy that whole. I'm going to hit escape to get out of that cell. So I can come over here and paste that in. So now the only bit that I need to change is the red. And you can see I haven't updated that table name yet. So I'm going to go through and just fix this one up, and then I'm going to change that table name. So that one wants to be application and analysis. And hit enter on that, and that's happy days. If I come over to the table, so this one's going to be TB underscore, and this is the type average, isn't it? Okay, so now if I have a look at that formula, that's been updated automatically, which is quite nice. Then come to the next cell, paste that in, and update that same bit. Okay, so then that one needs to be there. Enter, happy days. Now, if you don't want all of those, I can actually select these, go to my home, and just change the number of, probably 2 decimal points is good, and that's ready to go. So I'm going to come in here, grab that, escape, and Control V. So now that doesn't look right. Control C, double click into him to paste that in. Okay, and then it's just that red one that I want to change. Make sure you don't get rid of that closed bracket, otherwise it's going to be unhappy. Because it needs that closed bracket for the finishing of that. Now what you'll notice, if I start writing table, I can then go, right, well this is the type I'm looking for, the type average. And I can keep going through. So then if I do that open square bracket, it can give me elements of that as well. But in this case, I'm just going to click in the top. And it'll give me the information that I need. So you can see I don't have any communication and presentations there. I now paste them across, finish the last one. So that one needs to be research and inquiry. And those columns there, I'm just going to delete. Okay, so now I've got my data here, but it said something about the bottom needed there as well. So I need to have the bottom row including average for each different assessment type accumulated. Okay, so if I then come back over here, in the table design here, I've got a last column total row. So that allows me, so at the moment it defaults to something, I'm going to actually put my own formula in there. So this wants to be the average, doesn't it? Okay, so I can, there's a few options. I'm going to go average and do that for each one. I can pull it straight across from there. Now you can see, because we've got nothing there, it's unhappy. So I'm going to just put that. If error at the end, comma, speech marks doubled. Okay, so then that should then alleviate that guy there. Okay, so you can see that my average across there is provided nice and easily. So that's my first table, happy days. Okay, if I have a look at the next one, I need to show the different scores from each assessment from average and the top. So I need to be able to show the difference between each of them. Okay, so this next table is going to need the subject, and we could even split them out if we wanted to. It might be better for later on, but I'm going to go subject. I'm going to then have my score, then I need the average score and top score. Oh, no, I don't actually need them there, I just need the difference from average, difference from top. Okay, I'm going to grab that, make that a table, it has headers. Okay, alright, so now a really nice way to be able to do this is I can refer straight to what we have over in the raw data. So if I hit equals, I come over to the raw data, that's going to be my subject, hit enter. So it'll allow me to have all of my, so I can see there's my data to there. I can remove those for the moment. My score, again I can go equals and come over here and grab my score. Now the next part that I want to be able to do here is I need to check my score from the average. So if I go equals and I want that one, take away the average score. So if I take those away, at the moment you can see that my average for that first, I probably need another, I need to add one more in there, don't I? So I'd need the assessment title. I'll move that across one. I've got column 1 and this is going to be the title. Okay, so again that can go equals. Make sure at the top, hit enter, and then it'll go through. And what we're going to change here is because we've changed where everything is, it's quite unhappy. So I'm just going to redo that. So equals my score minus, come back over here to average, and it's happy again. Difference from the top. Let's just go wrap text on that. Let's see it. Equals that one, take top score. Okay, so now you can see the percentage difference between what I got and the average from, so those that are under the average, obviously. So we can do some clever formatting here. So I'm going to select that. We're going to go conditional formatting. So selecting that, I can do, if they are less than 0, means that we're underneath it. So let's go 0 there. We go OK. So we can see which ones are above or below 0. Okay, I'm just going to extend that out, or maybe not that far. Wrap those, just so we can see what's going on there. Okay, so again we've got our raw data. We can sort of break it down a little bit further if we wanted to have a look at what our English is doing. And we've got a bit of a spread there as well. So if we have a look at the next part that we need to include, so we've got the difference between there, and each one we need an overall percentage cumulation based on the weighting of the assessment. Okay, so we want to be able to get the weighting of the assessment. So if we have a look back over at our raw data, we have a 65.4%, and that's worth 10. So we need to find out what that 65% is of that 10%. Okay, so let's come back over to analysis, grab another table underneath. So we're going to go our subject. We need our, so we might do this in 2 stages. We've got the subject, we've got the task, we've got my score, and then what we probably need to do now is the weighting of that. Okay, so we're going to come back over here. We're going to add the weighting, and then we're going to look at the my percentage for task. Okay, so I'm going to again choose that. I'm going to go Command T, make that my table. I'm going to go equals here, grab that again, and pull it down to be the right size. 2, 3, 4, just back up. Okay, and then I can do the task for each of those as well. So I come back over, equals in there, drop that, grab that, enter. Okay, wrap those. Okay, so then my score just makes it easier to be able to see what we're doing as if we bring that across. The weighting, we could work with it just from there, but it just makes it a little bit easier. So now what I can do is I'm going to get equals. I need to times that by, so asterisk is the times. I'm going to, because this is a whole number and not a percentage, I'm going to go weighting divided by 100, which would put it down to 0.1, which is the same as 10%. So you can see of the possible 10% that I would get, I had 6.54. 50% would be 7.5. So I've got that through there happily. But what it's actually asking for, if we have a look, is I need to have the overall percentage based on the weighting of the assessment. Okay, so if I do another table, so this is going to be now subject, I'm going to be total weighting to date. I'm going to need then my percentage, and then I can have my current percentage, and then my grade. Okay, so if we now go, I've got my four subjects, I'm going to grab those from up here. Okay, make that my table. Okay, I again want to name this, missed a few, haven't I? So this is the table weighting. This one is my TV, I'm going to call that task weighting. I've got, oh, I missed him too. These are the table difference. Okay, so now if I come down here, I can go my total weighting to date. So this is going to be a sum if, so that I want to be able to add up any of these if it equals that. So I'm going to go sum if. Okay, so the range that I want to be able to check. I'm not sure that some if s is easy to work with. Let's do that. Okay, so the thing that I want to sum is going to be the weighting. So select that, comma, the criteria range. So what I'm checking is going to be just the name of the subject. Okay, and then the criteria is the subject here. Close that, and then that gives me how much of the percentage that I've got so far. Alright, so my percentage, again I'm going to do basically the same thing, except for what I need to be able to do for that first one. So I'm going to go over here, equals sum if s, the sum range that I want to be able to put together is my current percentage for task. I need to then check on the subject that I've got, and then the criteria I'm using that is I'm checking on that. Close that bracket, and what are you not happy with? Oh, double equal signs is not going to work. Okay, so at the moment I'm sitting on 35.055% of 60. So if I now go equals, and I'm finding out what that is, so that divided by that gives me my current percentage. I'm going to change that so it actually shows as a percentage. And then the last thing I need to do here is convert that to the grade. Now we could use a VLOOKUP, but that gets a little bit confusing. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do a check using if. So if I have the references, I'm basically going to be starting at the lowest to the high. Because anything lower than 34.5 is going to be an E. Then if I check if anything's lower than D, because we've already cleared this part out, we know that it's going to be above 34.5 but less than 47, so I can go through and check from the lowest number up to the top. I could do from the highest down, but I find going that way works. So that'll be the last thing we do in this video. So if I go equals here, I'm going to go if. So the logical test is if this percentage is greater than, or less than, sorry, we're doing less than my reference, 34.5. Now we might find we need to change these to a decimal. We'll see how we go. Okay, then I put a comma. So now if it's true, I'm saying it's an E. Okay, if it's false, I'm going to check the next one. So I'm going to put my next if in there because this gets long. I'm going to go if, and I'm going back over to that current percentage. So I'm going to grab and copy that. Current percentage is less than 47.5. Then I'm saying it's a D. Otherwise, I'm checking it again. If that current percentage is less than 64.5, I'm going to say it's a C. I could put that straight in, or I'm just going to select that. Otherwise, I'm going to then check the next one. I need my next if, so now I need to check if it's a B. So if that one there is less than that, it becomes a B. And then the last thing is the false. Or really, if it's not that, it has to be an A, which then I'm just going to go, it becomes that. Now what we'll probably find at the moment, I need to close that last, each of those brackets, and then we're back to the beginning. So at the moment they're all showing E. Now that is because we've got decimals here, and I don't have decimals on the other side. So let's fix up our references over here. So this should be 1.0. This goes 0.745, 0.645, 0.475, 0.345. So once I do that, I come back over here, and my grades are now where you'd expect them. I'm very close to a B there. That's where we're going to leave this. So if we can get to that point, that is fantastic. And we'll have a look at the fourth one in the next video.